Stormzy is everybody's favourite mother-loving grime artist. Currently the biggest name in grime and future runner-up on I'm a Celebrity, Stormzy has had a hell of a come-up. In 2015, he went from freestyling in the park to parking a free G-Wagon on his driveway. Yes, it was his famous track Shut Up, which started life as a humble freestyle in the park and ended up taking him to the heights of grime music, eventually going platinum, scoring a #1 album, and of course getting so big that Kevin Hart almost remembered his name.
So now I can say that I know what's over here. I got you, man. Thank you, man.
Stormzy.
But if you've heard Shut Up, you might remember that the first few bars had a little dose of salt. Stormzy called out his critics for calling him a backup dancer, ironically, while surrounded by more backup dancers than a Wade Robson meet and greet. The backup dancer accusation actually referred to a famous performance in 2015, when Kanye West brought out some of the biggest names in grime to loiter on the stage while he performed his new single, All Day. The rappers were all standing around looking like the kids in your primary school nativity show that weren't good enough actors, so got cast as trees and stars. And tell you what, I can definitely guess there were no shortage of trees on stage that night. For anyone that remembers it, this was actually a watershed moment for grime and just for the UK music scene in general. And this was many years before the ultimate culture vulture Drake would actually come along and really have his way with the UK grime scene. I personally feel like Stormzy was a little bit too easily offended when he was called a backup dancer. As we know, any good backup dancer can go on to have a long, illustrious career as one of Madonna's muff stuffers. So what actually happened? Well, this performance took place at the Brits, which is essentially the British version of the Grammys. This shouldn't be confused with the Mobos, which is much like the Grammy Awards for urban music, and it also shouldn't be confused with the Rated Awards, which is much like the Grammys, but with stabbings. The stabbies, if you will. Kanye was introduced by his wife Kim Kardashian and legendary presenters Ant and Dec in one of the most awkward failed selfie moments in history.
Yeah! Thank you.
If you don't know who Ant and Dec are, they're actually a famous presenting duo in the UK, most known for presenting their show Saturday Night Takeaway. Unfortunately, Ant and Dec have been going through tough times in the past few years, as it was recently discovered that Ant's personal Saturday Night Takeaway was comprised of a plastic bag filled with barbiturates and hard liquor. So Kanye was at the Brits to perform and promote his new single All Day. And I know what you're thinking, why would Kanye West stoop so low to perform at a two-bit award show like the Brits? Well, Kanye has a long history performing at the Brits, including this throwback show in 2006. He not only performed, but he was also presented the award for Best International Male by another washed-up, pill-popping British legend, Boy George, who received a frustrated slap from Kanye West after not realizing that Kanye was going in for a high five. I'd also just like to point out a personal side note in this story. During this 2006 performance, Kanye West was wearing these legendary Louis Vuitton millionaire sunglasses, which were designed by Pharrell Williams. When I was 15 following hip-hop, these sunglasses were quite literally the coolest thing on the planet, and I saved up years to try and get a set, but by the time I'd even got a few £100 together, there was no way I could afford them. They were going for thousands at resale, and I never got them. Interestingly, in this year's Louis Vuitton lineup for sunglasses, they actually have a modern spin on the millionaire shades, which are retailing for a whopping £515. So if anybody out there wants to cop a set of those for me, hit me up. So anyway, 9 years later at the 2015 awards, Kanye West needed a little bit of extra clouted cream for his attention souffle and decided to pull the entire grime scene on stage with him to add an extra element of respect to his performance. But how did Kanye even know about grime? Well, in 2015, this wasn't actually long after Drake had made his first initial steps into culture vulturedom by expressing his love for the grime scene and shouting out Skepta's legendary clash with Devilman on Lord of the Mics. This was a classic old-school British rap battle that seemingly took place in a London sewer. It was also around this time that Drake caught some attention for declaring his love for the British version of The Wire called Top Boy, which he's recently revived and brought back to Netflix. As well as around this time declaring his love for the British rapper Wiley, who would ironically go on later to call him out in 2019 for being a culture vulture. Now, this is a particularly juicy detail in this story because at the time when Kanye brought everyone out on stage, the first person to actually come out defending him and champion him for doing this was Wiley himself. So who did he bring out? Well, there were dozens of people on that stage with Kanye West that day, and quite a few people have mentioned that not everybody there was a grime rapper, and there was certainly a reasonable dosage of real street tugs on stage with Kanye. Irrelevant good music artist Sci-Hi wasn't actually there, but he did confirm that Skepta was the man that brought through the goons to the performance.
I didn't actually go to the show because I was actually working. You know, I'm like the...
I heard Skepta took your pass and you couldn't get in. That's what I heard. Is that true?
Shout out to Skepta. That's my guy.
Yeah.
He came through at last minute all day. Like, he brought all the goons.
Now, several of the people that were on stage with Kanye that day were members of his own Good Music crew. This included Vic Mensa, Philotheus London, and Alan Kingdom. And yes, I know what you're thinking. I don't remember who any of those people are either. Because the only people that anyone actually cared were there that day are what Deezer Samero would refer to as the Grime Boys, innit? Amongst the grime royalty on stage that night was, of course, Stormzy, who we've already discussed, Fecky, Jammer and Shorty from Skepta, JME and Wiley's crew BBK, or Boy Better Know, 18-year-old grime prodigy Novelist, ice cream enthusiast Krept and Conan, and of course the big man himself, who Kanye personally thanked at the end of his performance on the mic, Skepta. Now, the story of how all the grime boys in it ended up on the stage with Kanye West that day started like any good British story, with a cheeky Nando's. Not long before the Brits' performance kicked off, Kanye West was actually spotted in a local Nando's, and he decided to order a peri-peri rant with fries, jump up on the counter, and for some reason start ranting to the audience so that people could take selfies. I can only assume that the reason he did this at the time was to distract everybody in the Nando's while Kim Kardashian filled up a water cup with free Fanta. Classic move. Now, it seems like Skepta is the first point of call for any American artist that's looking to come over here and chase some clout, so it's no surprise that he was actually the first person to receive the original back call from Kanye West.
Organized by text message, the mob of performers was brought together spontaneously as Kanye sent out messages corralling as many people together as possible right before the show began.
Kanye basically texted Skepta and asked him if he had any available mandem for a short-term opening. The story goes then that Skepta set the wheels in motion, firing off messages to everybody in his Rolodex and assembling a crack team of tracksuit Larden roadmen. Krept and Conan said that Skepta texted them saying they had 30 minutes to get a black tracksuit on and get to the O2 Arena.
Yeah, we just went there, made our way there, and he's like, yeah, Kanye wants to bring us up. Kanye wants us on the stage. He's like, right, what we doing? He's like, I don't know, bro, but this is mad.
Novelist says that he was just chilling around Skepta's house when the back call from Kanye actually came in.
Yo, come off the stage with your man dem. It's really Skeps that said, yeah, I want to call all the musicians. I'm going to bring through the scene on the stage.
A notable face that was missing from the stage that evening was Skepta's brother and famous vegan JME. JME said that the reason he didn't go that night was simply because he was hungry. And that is understandable considering how much energy it takes to be a backup dancer. But interestingly, in that interview where JME discusses not being able to make it there that day, he actually breaks down how Kanye West even knows Skepta. Turns out it was from Kanye West's close friend, fashion designer, and ruiner of perfectly good clothes, Virgil Abloh. Apparently for years, Virgil has been a big grime head. He's always been known for having the Risky Roads DVD series that Devilman and Skepta Clash was originally on, and at the time he was also known for constantly DJing and whacking on Meridian Dam's classic hit, German Whip. But the opportunity to see JME and Kanye West on stage together wasn't missed for very long, because only a day after this Brits performance, Kanye West decided to organise a surprise link-up gig between Good Music and the London grime scene at London's Coco.
Talk to us about that night, man. How was that for you? How important was that night?
Very important night, very historic.
And this not only included Skepta and Novelist, who had actually been at the Brit show performing their own songs, but also they brought out JME and Meridian Dan to also perform their own solo songs alongside Kanye West on stage that night. And it wasn't just the grime boys that were out on show that night. Kanye West actually brought one of the only people that's of interest on Good Music at the time, Big Sean, as well as absolute legend of Wu-Tang Clan fame, Raekwon the Chef. So Kanye brought out all of the best names in grime at his Brit show, and then followed that up with a surprise show where he put on the whole scene and let them perform alongside him. What is there not to like? Well, it was actually blogger and presenter Ramel London who originally made the backup dancer claim in a blog that she had written just after that Brit show took place. Now, I've read this article and it definitely was taken slightly out of context. She's basically making the argument that UK grime stars were already popping and they didn't necessarily need that big Kanye West cosign to take them over the top. I personally feel like that backup dancer comment was basically just something to sensationalize the article, turn it into clickbait and get people to be interested in it. And boy howdy did that work. That backup dancer sentiment really picked up steam and a lot of people came out in support of it and definitely wanted to trash everybody that was there on stage that night, as well as Kanye himself. British legend Big Nasty was quick to get in on the action, actually saying in an interview just hours after the Brits after party ended that he thought that everybody on stage was backup dancers. Jay Spades even rinsed them in a random interview that he gave.
My thing is, yo, big up the backup dancers, you get me? It looked great, it was a good look. And you man keep doing what you're doing. Whatever it takes to get to the top, if that's your route, you do that, innit?
Dizzy Rascal, aka the Grime Robbie Williams, also didn't like it. And a Guardian piece even came out around this time that suggested that Kanye West was basically just patronising the whole grime scene. And even outside of the grime scene, irrelevant ex-musician and current alcoholic Liam Gallagher called the performance utter shite, and even 100 complaints actually came into the broadcaster Ofcom after viewers were upset with the N-word being used. Even Lionel Richie came out to express his displeasure at this performance, giving comments that pretty much nobody was looking for. I personally don't think all that criticism was fair. I think Kanye was definitely clout chasing by getting everybody on the stage, but he completely flipped that around by taking everybody out for a private show the next day and giving everybody stage time to perform their own solo songs whilst he jammed out on the stage. Jammer from BBK even broke down some of this criticism that was felt in the aftermath and gave a pretty level-headed response.
Run us through that day, the Brit Awards. Like, for me personally, again, as a spectator, I couldn't believe people were questioning that and looking deeper.
Yeah, because people want to badmine something that they can't understand, and people want to badmine something that they ain't a part of, especially when it's a great moment.
Even everybody's favourite punchy rapper Lethal Bizzle came out afterwards and said that he thought this whole thing was good for the grime scene, but it was sad that it had taken Kanye West to bring the extra attention that the grime scene apparently needed.
My whole take on the Kanye co-signing the grime scene is a positive. You know, I can't see that being a negative at all.
At the end of the day, there's some valid points on both sides, but ultimately Stormzy being called a backup dancer only provided him with an amazing quotable for his song Shut Up that ended up becoming a great hit. So it definitely did him good, if anything. That track Shut Up was a massive jumping off point for Stormzy to basically take over the whole UK grime scene, as well as pretty much the UK music scene in general. Hope you enjoyed that video. Make sure that you like and subscribe below. If you've been enjoying my work recently, definitely go and cop a t-shirt at the Trap Law store down in the description. Really appreciate your support and everybody that's been copping t-shirts, copping merch and supporting me on my Patreon recently. I just want to say thank you so much. It means so much to me that you guys have been supporting me. It really helps me keep taking this channel to the next level. I want to produce content for you guys at a much more rapid pace. I want to produce better content. I want to produce more often. And I just want to keep going and keep upping the levels. Everybody that's been supporting me, you lot are legends. It's been crazy. Really appreciate it. So just thanks so much. Hope you keep supporting. I'm going to keep making videos and I really appreciate it. So until next time, thanks very much and peace out.